Wholesome and our three-part series about the three systems that have disconnected women from their bodies. And today we are diving into performance culture. So far we have talked about purity culture, hustle culture, and today we are wrapping up the series and talking about performance culture. And honestly, I see performance culture as kind of this subset of hustle culture. They kind of blend together, kind of go together, but there is some nuance here that I think is worth pulling and making separate conversation. Because performance culture is basically how appearing okay just became a full-time job. And the idea for this came to me with a couple clients I was working with or I am working with. And honestly, thinking back, there's been other clients where this has also been a common thread, but having these specific conversations with these clients recently and the emotional. So remember, if you've listened to the other two parts, I talk about this emotional entry point, this way that we get kind of sucked into this particular system and the emotion that it preys upon and the emotion that is kind of the control mechanism. And for this one, it's loneliness. And again, exactly an emotion, kind of just a state of being, but it's the loneliness of high performing women. And dive into talk about this because, as I said, this came to me after having a couple conversations with clients and recognizing because these emotions that they pulled out of themselves were surprising even to them. Because even one of my clients, we had a quantum healing session where we're kind of uncovering some things. And this emotion came up and she was like, I don't really, like, it doesn't make sense, but this is what's coming to me. Like, this is what's coming through for me. I don't know why this is coming through. And it totally made sense because when we are disconnected from ourselves, when we have been performing, when we have been putting on the strong front, the face, whatever. This is disconnecting from ourselves. We're lonely because we don't even know who we are anymore. Right. And I think this happens so much, so much more often than we think it does. And I think this talking about performance culture is kind of this invisible layer. And I mentioned in episode 2, I also think it can be the most insidious because it's this almost like this, like the quote unquote silent killer, right? It's like this silent thing that just runs in the background. And really what it is, it's the gap between who you are and who you appear to be is this source of your deepest disconnection. That's where the loneliness comes through because you don't have the connection to yourself. And so let's talk about this, what performance culture actually does. It makes your worth entirely contingent on external validation. So it's how you look, what you achieve, how you appear to others, the role that you're playing for other people. And it's how people perceive you, people's perceptions of you, therefore giving you that external validation. It does create this constant gap between who you are on the inside and who you perform on the outside. And sometimes it's hard to even differentiate that. It's hard to even know who I am on the inside because who I am on the outside has sucked me in and I've gaslit myself into thinking this is who I really am. It's taught you that being perceived as capable, having it together, successful, all of this was more important than actually feeling that way. Like the perception of it. It's this outside perception. And really, I think it makes vulnerability a liability. And that's what I got. Again, this conversation with my client was so real for me. And that was what was so top of mind for her is she said, like, I can name emotions and I can think about them and I can recognize them, but I can't really feel them. Like the vulnerability, she had been disconnected from herself for so long and in such a deep way that the vulnerability piece was like just non-existent. And perfection really becomes a survival strategy. And if you are a part of hustle culture, if you're part of purity culture, then you know the perfection thing. Like this runs through all of these systems that we've talked about. And the fact is that all of this disconnected you from your actual emotional experience because feelings that don't the performance or the perception, those get suppressed. If I'm the woman who knows everything, do everything, I'm the hard worker, I'm the one who goes above and beyond all the time, That's the performance. So anything that doesn't that narrative, we got to push that down. If I'm feeling resentful about it, if I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling, none of that gets to be felt. None of that gets expressed. And so you spend all of your time living up to this facade or this front that you've built, that you have this vision of what the perception you've put out there. Now you've got to live up to it. And if you're already ingrained, you're indoctrinated into hustle culture and purity culture, then this is just like you're in it. Like this is just like the next step. Like it's already like you're 2 layers deep already. And this is just so easy to take in, because all of this is still about, well, it's still about the patriarchy, but it's still about this fear of being seen for who you really are. It's this fear of who am I without this? Like, what is my value, my worth without this? Like all of this.
Just like the other episodes, I want to bring you some tangible things to show you these sneaky ways that performance culture kind of sneaks in. The loneliness, the over-delivering, the fear of being found out, the fear of who I am if I'm not the one that's doing it all, and I'm not the one that's working all the time, or I'm not the one that's, busy 24/7. So I'm going to bring these to you, and I want you to feel these in your body and recognize, because as I've been talking about in this series, the awareness is huge. And really, that's what I want all 3 of these episodes to be, just this tool to bring awareness to the patterns that are showing up. Because, of course, we can't change the things that we're not aware of. So I want you to listen to these and feel into any of these that might feel resonant, or maybe all of them might feel resonant, and how performance culture kind of sneaks its way in to our lives and the patterns that show up. Here's how it might show up. You are the most capable person in every room, and you feel like you might also be the loneliest. You over-deliver in every relationship, friendship, partnership, client work, everything. You're the one who over-delivers because disappointing people feels catastrophic. Like the possibility of you disappointing people. And really the fear of disappointment is that deep feminine wound. We all have it. It runs so deep. And you feel like this is maybe one of your deepest fears. You hold space for everyone else's emotions, but you're terrible at processing your own and holding space for your own and expressing your own. You know exactly what everyone else needs, but you really have no idea what you need. And if you've ever been asked that question, like, what do you need or what do you want? That is so hard for you to answer. And this goes hand in hand with the purity culture thing. If you've been a part of purity culture, your desires and your needs were labeled as dangerous or sinful or deceitful or whatever. That's a big one. You have a really curated version of yourself that you show the world, and in a much more complicated world that nobody sees. So basically, what people see is like an iceberg, right? Like they're only seeing the tip of it, the top of it. And there's so much more going on that nobody else sees. And you're terrified of what that might appear to people. You're terrified of what people might think if they really knew all of you, and that maybe what I'm putting out isn't the real you. You avoid really speaking up or speaking your truth, and just kind of keeping to yourself. That feels safer than expressing your truth. And so again, if you're a part of purity culture, then you already know that women aren't supposed to make waves and be confrontational. So why would I speak? Why would I speak up, right? You take up emotional labor that's not yours to carry. This could be business or family or friendships, but you take on other people's stuff. Especially true if you have an undefined solar plexus center, but you take on emotional stuff that's not really yours. It's not like your duty, your job. You minimize your wins publicly, but privately, you really want the recognition. You really want the validation. And this has come up with so many of my clients who are high achievers and higher performers. And the client I was talking about earlier, this example came to me and she brought it up where, her whole life, this might be you, like your whole life, you've been the one that you do it all, right? Where you're the one who goes above and beyond, does more than what's expected. And then it becomes expected. Like now it's just expected because I'm the one that goes above and beyond. I'm always the one that puts in the work. I'm always the one that does all the work. It's just expected. And so that's what she was feeling, where she like, yes, I don't need the external validation and recognition, but in a way, wait a minute, I worked hard for this. I did this, right? And that might be you, where on the outside, you're like, no, I don't need the recognition. But then there's this kind of resentment or loneliness that's building up on the inside because you do want to be recognized for the work that you've done. Another example, you've been, quote, fine for so long that you're not even sure what not fine feels like anymore. This is where we gaslight ourselves into feeling fine, but something still feels off, or we just try to convince ourselves that we're fine, even though we feel like something's off. You catastrophize disappointing people, which I've mentioned this one before. I thought it was worth saying again. Like the very thought of disappointing people is just like the worst possible outcome. You read criticism as confirmation of your deepest fear, that you are fundamentally not enough. It just confirms your fears. Like, you can't take constructive criticism, you can't take feedback. And even though you say you can, but then immediately you feel like you get on the defensive when you're receiving some sort of criticism or feedback. And you perform wellness too. This is the last one I'm going to leave you with. You perform wellness too. The green smoothies on your stories, you're doing the green smoothies and the supplements and all the biohacking things and all the stuff. Meanwhile, your cortisol's through the roof. Your nervous system is a complete wreck, but you're checking off all the boxes and you're doing all the things so that, again, it looks like on the outside, you've got this, the picture of health going on. It's all performative. It's just another task, right? It's just another thing on the list for you to do. And here's the thing. I don't want any of this to sound judgy or shameful, because we all do it. We all do it. We are inundated, but this is why I'm calling it performance culture. And I feel like social media, while there's so many wonderful things about the internet and social media, it also has really dark sides. And I think this is where performance culture just kind of rears its ugly head, because we can see that, on the outside, all these things looking perfect, people's lives, people's businesses, people's families, it all looks perfect. And we don't know how much of it is being performed, because we feel like now we all have to perform it, because we're seeing everybody's perfect, the highlight reel, like they say, is happening all over the internet. And when we are stuck in performance culture, we are holding back being our authentic selves, holding back emotions that are longing to be expressed. And honestly, I feel like this is such a huge reason why so many people, especially in the Western world, are dealing with dis-ease in the body, because it is a complete lack of emotional connection to yourself. There is a lack of emotional intelligence, for lack of a better term, or lacking self-awareness, and just this fear of being authentically you. Of being emotionally open and available and expressing, and not suppressing and shoving things down, and dealing with things and expressing things. And I really feel like this is the root cause of so much of that, of what is going on with our physical bodies. Remember, emotions are energy in motion. If we are not allowing the emotions to flow through the body as energy, we are keeping them stored, stuck, trapped in the body, and it's going to cause physical things to manifest on the body. And I really feel like the quote remedy, if you will, to all of this really is letting ourselves be fully us, like the full authenticity, the truth, capital T truth of who we are, letting that out. The journey for me has been my spiritual journey and letting all of these pieces to the surface. And I mean, if you've been with me for a while, then you've seen this. The result has been a complete evolution of the work that I do and what I talk about, how I talk about it, and hence this series of episodes on the podcast. Because really, it has been a test of my bravery and my courage in speaking up and being me and showing all of me, and knowing that I have a message that my soul wants to get out, and then just being able to get all the stuff, the ego mind out of the way, to be able to be this vessel that God has created me to be. And I really feel like that's what is on the other side of this. We are all divinely created beings that have a message, whether it's with the business or not. It doesn't have to be with the business, but we all have a message to get out. I really believe that God, Source, Universe uses us as a vessel to get a message out into the world. Things are meant to come through us. And if we're holding back our authentic selves, if we're holding back, if we have all these fears that I just talked about, these fears that are this is like the curtain that's in front of all of this, that's kind of blocking our true authentic selves, then we're really doing a disservice to the world as well. And so for me, it's been getting all that junk out of the way to let all these pieces out, regardless of what people think or what I'm afraid people are going to think or whatever. And really, too, it's also been a test of my bravery in speaking out against injustices in this country and in the world. And even if people see me or what I talk about as quote unquote political, but being okay with that, because I have strong beliefs and I have strong convictions and I have strong values. And it's not something I can hold back because these are authentic pieces of me. And I know that the big question that I ask myself, and I want to challenge you here, I want you to ask yourself this question. Who would you be if nobody was watching and nothing needed to look a certain way? Who would you be if nobody was watching and nothing needed to look a certain way? And I know that's a question I ask myself. I still ask myself that. It's something that has helped me kind of peel back that curtain I was talking about and let this myself in my full glory come out to the open, right? It's something I still have to ask myself because I know that if nobody was watching and nothing needed to look a certain way, I would be my fully woo weirdo spiritual self, not holding anything back, not watering anything down, not censoring myself, and just bringing my authentic message out into the world no matter what. And the fears we have, right, of people seeing the unedited versions of us, they're all the same. And that's the thing. I find it so interesting. If we really think about it, we all have the same fears of what will happen if we come out and be our authentic selves, the unedited version of us, right? We're afraid people are going to think we're weird, or you're going to disappoint people. You won't be accepted. You're going to be rejected from the tribe. Like that primal need to be accepted into the tribe. We're afraid that we're going to be rejected. We all have the same fears. So if we all have the same fears of what's going to happen if we're our full unedited versions, why don't we just all be our full unedited versions? Like we're all afraid of the same thing. So if we were to just be ourselves, I feel like it cancels each other out. Because the fact is, we're all the same. We are all made up of the same thing. We're all made up of the same stardust. We all carry the same things within us. We're all one part of the whole. And we are here to express and bring forth a message into the world. These three systems, they're all just different arms of the same animal, like I said. And they're designed to keep us small, to question our bodies, to doubt our intuition, to outsource our authority, to keep us from being that authentic version of yourself that I've been talking about. And they use those really sneaky emotions to control us that way, right? Shame told us that our body was dangerous. Exhaustion told us that our body was an obstacle. Performance told us that our inner world was a liability. All three different systems with the same message. Your body, your truth, your knowing cannot be trusted. Period. That's what it's teaching us. And this is how we've become so disconnected from ourselves, from our bodies, from our intuition, from our inner voice, our inner world that has so much power and magic waiting for us to bring forth. And I want to reiterate the cost to high-achieving women, the cost that when we keep overriding all of this. I've mentioned it before, but I feel like it's worth saying again. There's the physical cost, the hormones, the cortisol, the nervous system dysregulation, the inflammatory markers, the autoimmune patterns. Like it shows up physically on the body. There's that emotional cost, the numbness or the disconnection or feeling that just kind of flat, dull feeling when everything should be fine because everything on paper on the outside looks great, but you're just disconnected from it. There's the creative cost. Remember that intuition goes quiet when your body isn't safe. Creativity lives in the body. We have to be in the body to access the creativity. We have to be in the body to access our intuition. The relational cost, the business cost, right? The cost of your joy and fulfillment. We're robbing ourselves of so much when we continue to disconnect ourselves from our bodies, from our inner world. And I've been talking about how all of these systems are three parts of the same animal, right? And that is the patriarchy. And I want to name why the patriarchy, why naming it can be uncomfortable for people, even in spiritual spaces where we know it exists. We know it exists. We know that this is a real thing. This is a real system. It's not a made up thing. It's not a conspiracy thing. Like this is a real system. And I think it can be uncomfortable because it can seem like we're using it as a scapegoat or as another way to blame men. But I want to debunk a couple things for you. First of all, you should know that the patriarchy is not all men, right? It is not about hating men. That's not what this is about. Because the fact is, all genders have contributed to it. The patriarchy is a system, not quote men. It's not men in general. It's not a male conspiracy as much as that's what is often taught about patriarchy, or the people who don't understand it or have misconceptions about it. It's an operating system, one that was created as a fear-based power structure that found the most efficient hosts, i.e., women, and it replicated itself through culture, religion, through law, through medicine, all these different aspects of our world. And yes, it was built by men who feared losing control, by religions who needed obedience, by governments who needed compliance, and everyone who participated in passing it down, which wasn't just men. Women play into the same system. Second of all, the fact is that patriarchy at its core is about power, control, productivity, and linearity. So that being said, you can see why the health and wellness space would be an easy target, right? It's because the human body is an easy target. Patriarchal thinking is linear and mechanical. So it's like A plus B equals C, right? Fix this part, suppress the symptom, you're done, move on. That's it. Very linear, let's just control it and fix it. Obviously, the conventional medical system follows this rubric. And in a lot of ways, I do say that the health and wellness space follows the same pattern, but it's just in this cleaner, greener outfit, right? So much of the wellness space is still this whole pill for an ill. We're not really getting out of this masculine patriarchal structure. Not to mention, I want to mention this too, that almost 80% of healthcare and wellness decisions are made by women. That's a massive market to exploit through shame and fear and inadequacy, which are the three most reliable tools of the patriarchy to get control and compliance, which is what it's all about. The shame, the fear, inadequacy, we're all women, we're so vulnerable to that because we already have it within us. We're born with the shame and the inadequacy just from generations of all the things, right? So of course it's an easy target. Of course we as women are an easy target. Hey y'all, we'll get right back to the episode, but first let me ask you this. You've built a vision that others admire. And you've built something that you're really proud of. But behind the scenes, your body feels like it's lagging behind. It just can't quite catch up to your brilliance and your mission that you have. That late night second wind, the foggy mornings, the hormone shifts, the endless push and forcing. You can't strategize your way out of that. And you already know you don't need more supplements. You don't need another supplement stack. You also don't need another side hustle disguised as self-care because nobody wants to have their health as a side hustle. This is about recalibrating your entire ecosystem. And that's why I created the Quantum Reset, a premium 3-month high-touch healing experience for visionary women who are ready to feel as powerful in their bodies as they do in their business. Inside, we decode your nervous system, your minerals, your hormones. We read your labs like the sacred text that it is, so we have actual answers. And then we pair that with deep energetic recalibration, subconscious release. We use gene keys, we use human design, and true embodied healing. This isn't about fixing burnout, because that's not what we're doing here. This is about becoming the woman whose body is powerful, whose body is completely electric, whose energy, clarity, radiance finally matches the size of her mission. If you know your success isn't meant to cost you your vitality and you're ready for a science-backed, spirit-led reset, then the Quantum Reset is your invitation. So check the link in the show notes or send me a message on Instagram, and let's bring your body back online with your brilliance. Now, let's get back to the show. So patriarchy has taken over the health space, and it's rebranded it as longevity and healthy aging and optimizing and improving. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with talking about longevity and healthy aging and improving. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to say that. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of healthy aging and longevity, all those things. But it's how we're approaching those things. Because the remedy for this, the remedy for the forcing and the regimented ways of doing the longevity, the health aging, like making it into this other thing we have to like perform and accomplish and hustle through, is one that is led in feminine energy rather than the masculine. And I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but I have a really good podcast episode about this. I'm going to put it in the show notes. I highly recommend going to listen to that. It's a really good way to supplement what I'm talking about here. This feminine-led approach to the body versus the masculine-led. The feminine-led approach starts with self-love and nurturing and healing the traumas from the patriarchy, from misogyny, all these patriarchal patterns, which the patterns are the worthiness, the shame, the guilt, the fear, the inadequacy, all of those things, which we all have those. And the fact is, you can't treat your body like a machine because it's not. Our body is not a machine. It is a divinely wise vessel that we are in. It is not a machine. You can't heal a body you're at war with. You can't shame and guilt and force or obsess your way to better health. The real healing, the real sustainable healing is about finding self-love, self-nourishment, self-compassion. Like, it's leading from that space. So yes, we can talk about the anti-aging and the longevity and all the other things, but it's coming from a place of self-love and self-nourishment. It's not combating yourself into looking a certain way or fitting a certain archetype or standard or meeting a certain standard because you feel inadequate being in the body that you're in right now. You know what I mean? There's a difference between surface level wellness and actual root cause of women's disconnection. And it's how we've been disconnected from our intuition, from our body signals and cycles, because cycles, that doesn't fit in the patriarchal model. It doesn't fit. It doesn't work. Things don't work in a cycle in the patriarchy. They work very linearly, but we know that a woman's body is not linear. We work in a 28-day cycle. And hey, newsflash, the entire world, the earth, lives in cycles, right? There are seasons and cycles to everything. So you can see how counterintuitive these patriarchal systems are that we've all succumbed to. And this is what makes my approach different, because my work isn't about adding all these other things to do or try. Like, yes, will I give you some things to do or try? For sure. But that's not what it's about. It's about learning the language of the body and using that to dismantle what was never true. Again, moving that curtain out of the way. Let's get to the inside. Let's get to that deep wisdom part of you and let that part lead. And then we can try all the things, right? Let's tap into that part, that deep inner wisdom part of us, and then let's try the things. And I feel like this needs to be said too before we wrap up this series, is when we talk about the patriarchy and these patriarchal wounds of the guilt and the shame and the inadequacy, the fear, all these things, none of this is your fault, because this was a design. This was a design. This is a system, and any system can be dismantled. And I think that one of the big pieces of healing for me, which honestly didn't come until years later after I started this healing journey, but it was the recognition that none of this was my fault. The conditioning, the beliefs, the patterns, your ego mind wants to have somebody to blame. It wants to blame somebody. And that's not what this is about. This is not about blaming. This is not about being a victim. This is not about victimization, because that's the other thing. There's a big difference between taking responsibility, right, for your healing and all of that, and blaming your conditioning and being a victim to the patriarchy. I'm not asking us to be victims, because we're not. We were born into a system, and that it is what it is, but now we can have the awareness of it and we can do something about it. All of this was handed down to me. This is the realization I had. All of this was handed down to me by generations of women dealing with the same thing and not having the tools to undo it all. And that's what I'm giving you. That's what I'm giving you here. I'm giving you the tools to undo it all. The systems here that create the patterns can feel really personal, but it's not. It's collective. This is a collective wound that all of us have. It's a collective wound, men and women alike. Men have wounds from the patriarchy as well. That's a story for another day. We all have the wounds from it. Because the fact is, as I said before, the patriarchy is so counterintuitive to the ways of the world, of the natural order of things. It's so counterintuitive. And now that we know, we have the wisdom that is a fact, we can undo it. We can break the patterns. We can be the pattern breakers and the cycle breakers. We can take responsibility for our healing without blaming or being a victim. Your job now is just to take ownership, take responsibility, and then take the steps forward to healing and repatterning what you know is there. It's about clarity, We can get in our feminist soapboxes all day, but what isn't helpful is getting on our feminist soapbox and talking about how much you've been a victim to the patriarchy. That doesn't change anything. It doesn't do anything. And it puts people in a victim mindset that is really hard to get out of. Your healing can't come from a victim mindset. Your healing has to come from an empowered place. Like, I'm going to do something about this now. And that's what this is for you. You get to be the cycle breaker. You get to be the pattern breaker. You now have the awareness and the access to the tools to break the cycle. So future generations of women don't have to succumb to the wounds of purity culture and hustle culture and performance culture. It gets to stop with us. When we name the system, we take our power back and we recognize where we've set down our power or handed it off to someone else. And that is available to us now. And that is the work that I do with the women that I work with, the women that are in my world. We have the understanding of the context, like how we got here, and now we can undo it. We can recognize the patterns. We can recognize, oh, this is why these physical things are showing up in the body, because I've been running these subconscious patterns in the background. We understand it now. And when you have that awareness that you have now, because you've just listened to this 3-part series, then you can dive even deeper into understanding your body, your inner world, and what it's trying to tell you. And if all of this has landed for you, everything that I've been talking about in these last 3 episodes is landing for you, I invite you to come into Attune, which is a 4-week immersive experience designed to connect you to the intelligence of your body so you can stop outsourcing your authority. You can start trusting yourself again. You make your body your best authority. And this is where you learn how to hear what your body is actually telling you, where you learn how to interpret its signals instead of ignoring them or overriding them or suppressing them or just shoving them away or shutting them in a box. This is where you learn how to regulate your nervous system in a way that feels natural to you. It's where you rebuild trust with yourself so your decisions feel grounded and not forced. It's where you can finally connect to your body. If you have felt disconnected from your body, or you've listened to this series and you're like, well, I guess I am disconnected from my body, this is when you come back home to it. And that's what I want this to feel like a coming home to yourself, to your body. Because I know if you were listening to this, if you were in my world at all and you're listening to this, there is a deeper path meant for you. And you know that. You know there's a deeper path meant for you. But maybe you feel like you either don't trust yourself to follow it yet, or you feel like you don't have access to the power required to get you there. But it's there. And when you feel grounded and clear and fully in your power, this is how you start creating your world intentionally. It changes how you lead and you create how you live. You create your world intentionally on purpose because you remember how to listen to the version of yourself who already knows the language of the body. That's what we're doing inside of Attune. It is going to be such a magical experience. We're going to be covering so many aspects of your body, your soma, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the mental, all of those pieces. And I do have a special founder members rate going on right now. It's in the show notes. There's going to be some self-guided parts and there's going to be some live parts and you're getting access to all the things. And I'm so excited to bring this to you. So go check the show notes below, click the link and join in. We're going to start soon. And I thank you for joining me on this series. I know when we're bringing awareness to things that are going on in our lives to the surface, it can feel heavy. And I want this to be a moment where you draw a line in the sand, where you recognize, okay, I see how I got here. I see how we got here. Because remember, this is a collective thing. And now this is the moment where I choose to start operating differently. Let this be your line in the sand moment where you decide that now things get to change. I have the awareness. I recognize the patterns. I'm going to do the deeper work to bring even more patterns to the surface. And maybe that means you jumping into Attune to be able to bring those patterns to the surface and start to rewire those. And now you can jump on the path to healing, to rewire, repattern, recondition, relearn, reconnect to you, that authentic you. It's in there. The magic, the wisdom, all of that is there. So thank you for joining me on this series, and I'll see you soon.
Show notes for that. You can DM me and go ahead and jump into a tune. We start soon. I'll see y'all soon.